right, here we are, the four amigos. We are Dirk Daring is out. I had a good picture he sent me. He's in a tree stand hunting bears at night. I was like, at first, I was like, dude, are you going on at night to hunt bears? But then he's in the tree stand, so he's not going to be here tonight. He's out doing some hunting and stuff. So it'll be the four of us. We're going to talk Dolphins draft coming up. I really don't want to talk about any of the other stuff. This is the most important thing. Grier, I think this has got to be a critical draft. I mean, he's had critical ones before, 2020 and stuff, 2021. But reality is it's a now, everything's about now. So if he comes out hot and has a good draft, I think he can extend himself. And, for those who don't like Grier, and I'm one of them, this is a real opportunity. I don't see how he could totally screw it up. I just don't see how he could totally screw this thing up. It would take a huge effort. I think that even if he just plays like an average game, there's some exceptions. We'll talk about that. But I think that Grier can come out with a pretty decent draft. So we'll get into the draft, go over any questions you guys got, whatever you guys want to talk about the draft and Grier. But I think the guy is going to come out with a pretty decent draft. Problem is, this draft is in a perfect situation for him. And if he does get it, that's great. But it's a very conducive environment. Of course, if he gets this one, he'll be back next year, and it might not be so conducive. But we can't really think about that. We got to think about it right now. So what do you guys think about that? Sharif is here. Bottom right, we got my man Cody. Bottom left. Top right, I got my guy Abel, and then there's Monkey Man Curtis over here at top left. So what do you guys think about that? What do you think about this draft? Whatever I said, whatever I didn't say, whatever, Someone take it over, man. Have a big
Cody,
mouth, or else I'll be talking.
Cody and Abel, you guys could start it off.
All right, I got one take on Grier. Out of the last few months is when I really started. Maybe the last 2 months is where I feel like, okay, this dude might be on the way out. But before that, the only path to success I could see was Grier just like having an epiphany, going and doing ayahuasca and going, oh, I've been drafting completely wrong. And just kind of having that, come to Jesus meeting with himself and figure it out, which I think, humans are humans, man. Crazy things happen. And sometimes they just get smacked with the truth and it really wakes them up. And that was my only hope for him. So I still have that for him. It's either that or he's on the way out. But as a Dolphin fan, you know what? I just want to see something building in the right direction, whether we don't know who did it or not. But I just want it to start going north right now. That's all we have. You're right. That's all we got is a draft right now.
Well, that's it. Really, we don't, future's uncertain. The end is always near. We don't know what the future holds. And whether you like Grier, you don't like Grier, whether you believe we're going someplace, players last longer than, good players usually on teams last longer than regimes and GMs. So whatever you think about Grier, if he stocks this team up, it's something for us to hold our head up high. It's something either for this group of guys that get themselves right, turn it around. That's a lot, we'll see. But it's a little bit of hope right now, maybe tending to hopium. But if not, then there's other guys going to take over. And if they come in with a better group of guys, maybe you get a better caliber coach, better caliber of GM. So however you slice it, we just have to hope he does well. I'm not demanding an A+, but at least a B+. It's got to be at least a B+ draft. 10 picks, 13th overall. You got to come out with at least 3 guys that are starting and then a few little depth guys behind it. And I think it's really plausible because of our needs and where it's fallen. So maybe he does. Abel, what do you think? You think that Mr. Grier can pull it off or what?
Well, for this, I would say that there's 2 parts to it. One is that, we've been talking from when the season started that, you guys all knew that I was angry. And, all of us as fans were angry, after, hey, we did good in 23. When we ran him back in 24, last year, Mike McDaniel's first losing record, things like that. now everybody wants out, but like you, Curtis, and Dirk really kind of, and Cody and everyone talked me like off the, I guess the
Off the
ship where,
ledge. Come
hey, we
back.
need to really see which, which players want to stay here, or like which ones do we really, really, really need to build around and evaluate. That's always your thing, Curtis, where you evaluate. And the second part of this is that, okay, well, with all coming out with Grier and his press conference last week and all that, and they came off out of the season, and
Oh, that was
we're going to keep
disaster.
status quo, but then keep everyone the same. Is okay with this draft. How is it going to be? Is something really maybe stupid going to happen? Like when you were talking with Dolphins realtor saying, "Oh, well, let's get another edge player at 13." It's like, okay, Grier's like maybe drafting this whole thing, or does he have these other guys that are with him in the building, in his ear saying, hey, let's go this route, let's do this, let's make more picks, and let's really see if they have done their homework, in those later rounds too, where hopefully we get good players there too, because we have holes everywhere.
Everywhere. You just got to fill some of them. We can't fill them all. We got to fill some. What do you think, Sharif? Sharif, you there? All right, Sharif's not there. Well, when he gets back in. So the edge guy, look, Shamar Stewart, he's a guy I wouldn't be terribly unhappy drafting if they draft like an edge, because he can kind of play DN. That's not who I'd want. And I had an interview with Dolphins realtor, and he's really into the draft. Elwood, I want Warren to change our offense to 2 tight end sets, no more 2 high safety, 1 TE, 6 OL, 1 number 1 TE, 6th OL, 3rd wide receiver Wildcat. QB opens up the deep ball with a TN and run game unstoppable. Well, yeah, Warren would really help us a ton. He would create something different than what we have. You got John, and you could put him there, and you could even bring in Pharaoh Brown. You could put Pharaoh Brown on the strong side next to Paul. You could put Warren on the right side next to Jackson. And then you could use Johnu as the H-back. That would be something. It still would come down to how the offensive line plays, but there's other picks for that. But if we go into the season with no cornerbacks, it's going to kind of put pressure on things too, because it's a very difficult situation, especially with Ramsay leaving, because your defense, the lower the points the defense allows, the easier it is for the offense to be complete and not have to chase. So I wouldn't mind Warren. He was the first guy I wanted in a bubble. And there's talk of him going even higher, like maybe to the Jets, Chicago. So it's not a wild thought. For me, I would love to have Campbell or Membu, but I don't think they're falling. I'm a little concerned about getting, I don't know, maybe not maximum value at 13 for DTs. I'm not big on banks. But if Jai Barron's not there and Will Johnson's not there, well, then maybe, Warren is a guy. I would say I wouldn't be unhappy, but I think it would put a lot of pressure on all the areas. But we need to get the run game going. We need to – and it's not so much – to your point, it's not so much, in my opinion, the 2 high is going to stay. It's not really the 2 – I think that's a misnomer in my evaluation. People get wrapped up on a 2 high. The 2 high kind of takes away some of our deep stuff, but really where we really killed people was over the middle, and it's the linebacker depth that really hurts us the most. And so a Warren would kind of force that linebacker depth to be a little different. It would force them to take notice. And I think that would open up stuff in the middle and maybe to the edges. So I'm not against that. I don't know if that would be my highest, but he might be a little safer bet than say a Johnson, because Johnson does have the injury history. He is not such a great tackler. We don't really run man all the time where we need this like premier edge, a single wide cornerback playing man. Jedi Barron, I think, and Alf kind of turned me on to that. I think it's a little bit more of a guy that we could really use. But I wouldn't be against it. Would you guys be against it?
Warren?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can he block like Gronk?
No, but he can block pretty good. Nobody can block like Gronk.
Tight ends just take a while to come along. I mean, it's a tough transition for tight ends into the pros. So if he's a stud, he's a stud. I don't know. I don't watch his stuff. I've heard Gronk is the comp, and if I get anything like Gronk, that's really awesome.
Oh, yeah. And he could do a lot of stuff, especially with McDaniel's love of receivers blocking and creativity. You know, it would help us a little bit, a solid amount. But if we can't run inside, we still wouldn't break free that I'm hoping. But I wouldn't be adverse to that at all. Indad had a great comment here. What I don't want the Dolphins choosing is the third, fourth, or fifth best player at a certain position. I totally agree. If you're staying at 13, get someone who is a worse second best option at the position. And that's fair. And to Elwood's point, if you're at 13 and say Barron and Johnson are gone, you can get the best tight end in the group. So that's a fair thing. I told you can't at 13, you can't do one of Grier's little crazy things and pick up some guy, that's in the fringe group because he sees something. You've got to get at least second best position. Membu, Campbell are gone. I don't want Banks. No, I don't want Banks either. I don't think he's a bad player, but you got to transition him. He's got a little bit of inability to move people. He's a great mover. And if we didn't play him at guard, he's not playing tackle. He's got Jackson, you got Paul. He would be great getting on the move, but that's all we would have. We don't really have any junk in the trunk guys, but maybe Grier is going to lean into what Grier does. If Graham is gone and Grant is there, take him. I wouldn't mind Grant, although some people are not totally high on him. Sharif, you hear us, buddy? If Hunter and Barron.
Hey, I apologize for that. Sorry about that, guys.
No, don't sweat it, man. Not at all. This is not like this is not CBS News or ESPN primetime. We're chill over here. It's all good. If Hunter and Barron Johnson gone, close. Yeah, sure. I don't want a Moss now at 13. Yeah, no. That would be a disaster. Yeah, if he falls to us. He could go earlier. He could definitely go earlier. Warren could definitely go earlier. I mean, this team's the Jets, if Membu's gone, like I'm going over my list. I'm going to have my final mock draft. I hate doing it though. I mean, I love to do it, but I hate to put it out there because my OCD and German nature wants to be right. I don't want to be wrong on anything. There's no way you can get everything right. And it just freaks me out. But I'm going to bite the bullet and do it. But I got Cam Smith going to Tennessee, number 1. Travis Hunter, number 2. That's clear. Giants, I think they're going I think Carter's probably going to be – Abdul Carr is probably going to be the guy. But I wouldn't be too surprised if they took Gianti. Because if you look, they've got Thibodeau, and then they got the other guy they just picked up in free agency last year at edge position. And Gianti would fill that loss of what's the guy who went to the Eagles? My brain's not on fire. Yeah, Saquon. And they would get an elite player. I think Gianti is ultimately elite, but I think they'll probably go Carter so they can maybe move off Thibodeau. But Carter also plays drop, so you could put him in different spots and keep all those guys along with Lawrence inside. So maybe they go there. But my thing is with Dable, I'm getting too much into it. So that's what I think. I'll do the rest on the things I'm thinking too much. But then you got Campbell. I think Campbell or Membu's definitely going to the Pats. I'd probably say Campbell. He fits a lot of the prototypes that oh man, my brain's not right. What's the coach over there? Vrabel. Sorry, my brain is not good today. So I think Campbell's going 4. And then 5, I still think Gianti could be there at 5, but I think they're going to go Mason Graham. They've got a huge hole at their D tackle spot. 6, I'm not certain with Vegas. A lot of people are saying Gianti. I think so, but there's a lot of things back and forth. Membu, I think, is going to be certainly gone by the Jets. They have a huge gaping hole at right tackle. That's what he plays. Then Carolina, it's all over the place, but they really need cornerback help. So it's Barron or Johnson could go there. I think there's a chance that they could go Barron and John. Some people are saying maybe Warren there because that would help out the young quarterback. I'm not good with names today, so forget about it. So I don't think somebody said offensive line. I thought that was crazy. I think it's cornerback. They could probably use an edge, but I don't think there's any great edges there that fit there. So I think it's Barron Johnson or maybe Warren. Now it's going on a car. Saints going to take Sanders. 10 Chicago. It's hard to say right now. I even hear people say offensive line. I think that's crazy. They spent.
Janty won't make it past them. If Janty's still
there, done. Yeah, he's done. He's definitely there. They could use a cornerback, but I don't think that's where they'll go. But 11 49ers. They are so gutted on the defensive line. I could see Shamar Stewart. There's no other really edge guys there. If he's somehow gone, or they decide they could also go Johnson or Jediah Barron, they could use both. And then Cowboys, I'm still thinking about it. So there's a chance we could not see these cornerbacks, but I definitely think one will be there. I think whether Sanders gets picked or not is a big deal because a lot of people are saying because they got rid of their top cornerback, Saints, they might even go cornerback. But I have to imagine if Carr's out, and they got a new regime in there, and Sanders falls to them, I think they got to take it. So it'll be very, very interesting what happens with us at 13. I think things could fall really nice. If somebody reaches on a dart or something like that, or they're talking about Cowboys grabbing that second running back, which I don't think they should do. So we got to see. But we should be able to find something. But if everything is off the board, like you're seeing here, and Membu's gone, Campbell's gone, Graham's gone, Johnson's gone, and Barron's gone, then it gets really interesting. Then what do you do? I think that's the only thing I see where we could run into trouble. Hell, if you're going to a wide receiver for whatever reason, yeah, that's what Zach, that Dolphins realtor said. You could go get T-Mac at 13, which I don't want, but then you could get off maybe Hill this year, or at least you'd have the exit route next year. But again, it would, for me, the problem with that is you'd be off track on your offensive line. You'd be off track on your defensive line. And you really need to start filling this thing up early because both those positions take a little time. And I would rather have I think you can get off Hill no matter what next year. But I mean, if they're planning to get him off in the offseason, I just don't think anyone's going to go for him. Maybe T-Mac, but I don't know. Because then that puts more pressure on him to hit the offensive linemen mid-rounds, later rounds, and the D tackles. And we haven't been so hot at it, So Johnson or Grant. Yeah, I like Grant. Dirk's got me liking Nolan too. And I like Shalik Williams too in the second round. I think Grant could be really good. I like him a lot. He was my second favorite. I went from Warren to Grant. So I wouldn't be adverse to that. But there is a little things in there that maybe he might not go where you want. But I wouldn't be unhappy with that. What do you guys think about all my jabbering over here?
I watched some Walter Nolan YouTube videos for Dirk, and the thing I noticed is he was always moving towards the quarterback. Whether they were trying to double him, he's never pushed off his spot. I know these are just his highlights. They're not going to show his bad ones, but he just was off the ball and making progress towards the quarterback on every single one of those plays. Just immovable dude. They had three guys trying to, on the third one.
Yeah.
They got the first down, but they only got it 1.5 yards, and he basically had a triple team that he just completely stonewalled. But he's got attitude problems, I guess.
Yeah, well, when he gets unhappy with the situation, and sometimes he pulls himself out of practice and games, and that's not good for us here, considering we're all dysfunction. That makes me nervous.
But those guys that are a little psycho, those are the guys you need on your team, on your defense.
Oh yeah, if you're a functional team, but what if you're not functional?
Yeah, I just think you need some psychos. You need some Richie Incognitos, man.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. We also need more structure. What do you think, Sharif? You got your mic back, man. Come on, hit us up because I want to be talking.
Well, were you guys able to hear me the first time?
No.
No.
Oh,
No.
I probably went out then. But anyway, I was basically saying, when I listened to Anthony Weaver's press conference, and I listened to his first press conference, he basically wants to do the zero. He wants to do a lot of zero on third down, and then him representing the fourth ranked defense, and then Fangio had the 10th ranked defense before him. So with the talent he had, Tyndale, Cam Smith, all these guys struggling, he was able to produce that ranked defense. And I think him moving closer to zero blitz, I would want to look at players that fit that. Now, the Raekwon Davis of the world, the Van Ginkels of the world. I guess you have your Chubb, you have your Muhammad's, you have your Cameron Goods, you have the kid the Murphy kid from Cal. All these are defensive edge rushers who can thrive in a zero blitz. When you run a zero blitz, which Weaver wants to do, you're gonna have to find the guys like the Elandon Roberts, the soldiers who's just gonna bust up plays and just gonna engage at middle linebacker. I guess that's a Brit, the Ken Britt
Sharif.
from.
He said he wants to move to zero. I didn't hear that. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, if you listen to his first press conference, he said on third down he always would love to come, and that tells me that his style will be Weaver, but it will be, I guess it will be, if it's zero, then it's going to be one safety in the back, and if you have seven coming, it could be disguised, just like how Flores was. You didn't know who was dropping from, you didn't know who was coming, and the point of it is, if Weaver is going towards that more. Then now I'm gonna look for players that fit that system, right? The Alfred Collins, which leads me to my question to you all: do you have tackles? You have 6 more picks, or do you feel good getting 2 old linemen and do 2 defensive tackles? I mean, because I think you can double down where the strengths are. And I think the strengths in this draft is defensive tackle. So if you try to double down somewhere else, you may get the watered down second guy. What do you guys think?
Yeah. What do you guys think? Because I always think something. So what do you think, Abel? What do you think, Cody?
What you got, Abel?
I think that's interesting because, like, even with Dolphins realtor, he brought up like, hey, well, let's go get, the wide receiver, Tate. And I'm like, dude, are you crazy? Like, we don't need wide receivers. Like, especially, I would say, spending the pick at 13, I understand, getting off of Hill, all that. But, like, even now when I'm starting to do, like, mocks, because I just do a lot of mocks, like, I'm kind of seeing that Jahdae Barron and that, Will Johnson are both gone. So it's kind of like, oh, man, like, it's putting us kind of in this position where Sharif's saying, where, do we want, like, an A plus or an A player? Or do we move back to get like 3 or 4 like kind of B players and like more picks in the middle?
Well, the thing is, if we don't have, if certain guys don't fall to us, then we might not have the option to trade back. That's
right.
Concern if top talent doesn't fall there.
Because like how you say too, Chris, like everybody knows what we need, and there's a lot of teams in front of us that kind of block us out from certain positions that we have, where. Hey, when like I'm continuing to do mocks, like there's a lot of kind of like good like tackles like later on in the back. But I mean, I think we have to get like one of those corners first, because after Barron and after Will Johnson, I would say, hey, there's no way that Sharon Revel's he's projected to go like early second round. He's not gonna make it to 48. Where
The Hairston kid is good.
Kid is good. Where getting into that 48 range, like maybe that's where we can start building up the lines, defensive or offense.
Well, for me, I'm not putting my foot in the ground. I'm just telling you my loose interpretation. For me, I feel like if you have one of these 2 corners at 13, you're more apt to more likely find D tackle talent in that second 48 pick. Then if you reverse it, like if you grade the D tackle at 13, I think it's a little more sketchy in that second round. That's just my take. Now, I'm going to get back to Elwood's comment in a second, but guys, what's the one player, regardless? And how you doing, brother? What's the one player, regardless around, you'd be disappointed we didn't take? Now,
was it Desmond Watson? That's who we were going for.
I don't know. For me, I would. It's hard because the guys I'd really want them to take, they're not going to take. So I would like. I think a guy that we could take that I'd be disappointed is in the second round, Shalik Williams. I really like that kid. I think for a second round talent, he could be there. I think Nolan could. I don't think he's going to fall that far. He might trade up. So for me, the second round is where I think we could find that D tackle. I just don't see all these D tackles going off. It's 16th pick in the second round. But Shalik Williams, I think, is a guy that we could. He's 334. He's a plugger. He doesn't have much pass rush move, but he does fit that Paul Pierce. Not so much. He's like a hybrid between Paul Pierce and then Jones, who they got with the Ravens. And I think one of those, that guy would be really nice to have. I think that's a guy I really like. There's other guys like Ty Robinson, I think is a good guy, a guy that I'm kind of interested in the right. Anyway, so what do you think?
If I may, Curtis?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Shut me up.
There's actually there's a couple of guys there to the commenter. Once again, if you're going to go 4-3, because that's what Weaver is, right? A 4-3 and a kind of a hybrid of 3-4. Then you want two defensive tackles, right? So you want there's an Alfred Collins there. There's Omar Norman Lott, and it doesn't matter where people think he would go. If he goes that high, then that means other people can drop to 13. So if they have the Dax kid, the quarterback, if they have him ranked that high, then that's Omar Norman Lott and the Pax kid going in the top 10, which makes another guy possibly dropping to us at 13. So we love how these guys are highly ranked on ESPN, which gives us an opportunity to get our guy. But to me, when you talk about defensive tackles, and it's not thin, it's not a thin position. You can get defensive tackles in the top 150 picks. You got the Deion Walkers of the world. You got the CJ Wesses of the world, the JJ Bigays. You got, like he said, Tyleek Williams, TJ Sanders. You got all of these guys, and not only that, you have a lot of more defensive end need. So people are going to be taking the edge rushers off of the board before a lot of these guys. So maybe in the 80th pick to 150 pick, you still got premium defensive tackles who can help Zach Seiler, because everything is relative to helping Zach Seiler.
That's right. We got to help him. Oh, and then Sarah, if you want to come, I put my email down there. Email me, and then I'll send you the link. Just click on it, and you'll pop up on the sidebar. Thanks for joining. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm not totally have anybody on. Doesn't really matter. So definitely join in.
And that's why, if we do want a corner, don't feel bad if you don't get him in the top 13 pick, because there's no more corners. But the thing is, Grier always has his staff and team out willing to get undrafted or late rounders, which I respect in Grier. If you respect any smidget of Grier's ability, is his ability to get. Right now, Storm Duck has to be beaten out. Guess what? We liked him from his highlights in college, and we only heard of him later into the offseason camp. So we have to give Grier that credit. I'm not afraid if we don't get a corner at 13, because I know Grier's ability to replace the Minka Fitzpatricks, the Javon Hollins of the world, the Brian McCains, Bobby McCains of the world. Grier is fine with doing these things. Now, he's failed with Cam Smith and Igbenogany, but my point is he's not going to fail all the time. Storm Duck is way better than Igbenogany ever was, because he started games and played one-on-one and turned his head to the football and knocked the ball down, something that other guys never did. So I think right now I'm not crying if we don't get the corner at 13, because I still can double down on my defensive tackle. I can double down on a guard, and another offensive lineman, and I can get 2 corners and my safety later. I mean, I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah, I think Grier said during this conference the one thing that he did seem pretty emphatic about, answered it quickly. Do you think you have your starting safeties on the roster? And he went and listed them off, listed Campbell as a depth piece. He just seemed like he liked what he had at safety. It's a volatile that Jordan Davis has played a bunch of games, but I'm not going to try to say the DB's name from Detroit, but apparently he's a great player, just never healthy. But Grier seemed like, okay, I'm pretty good at safety. So if it's really a thick draft at DT, like you got to think like that's the most common sense thing to do is to wait on that. But who knows?
But
I'm
remember now, with
excited.
Flores, we didn't have any superstars, right? He asked Landon Roberts to take up space. He asked Raekwon Davis and Siler and Christian Wilkins to take on 2. So Ogba could come around free and get 9 sacks because then offensive linemen won't be able to figure out a zero blitz all of the time, which caused Ogba to get 9 sacks. But the point is, you get a couple of guys and no names, they do their job, and all of a sudden we get free to a quarterback. And I think more or less you just need somebody who can take on. I'm not crying if we don't get the Grant kid or we don't get the other kid from Michigan, the stud defensive tackle, Mason Graham. I'm not crying because you get any one of the guys that Curtis mentioned, or even a CJ West, a Dion Walker, Alfred Collins. You get any one of these kids, they can help Siler. And I'm not trying to boost them up or boost the fans up. The tape will show. You can not get him. You can not get your guy at 13 and feel good with defensive tackle. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if I'm the Dolphins, nobody is seeing this kid Simon, the linebacker. Nobody is seeing these other stud linebackers that could potentially take over a starting job, right? The Jaheed Campbell kid, he's fallen by the wayside every day. They talk about the draft. He's probably in the 30s right now, but a guy like that can fall to you. Because if you don't get your corner, you get your defensive tackle. I'm telling you right now, if you get a Jaheed Campbell, this is a generational talent at linebacker. And then all of a sudden, your 96th pick or your 90, I think it's 92nd pick. You can worry about your corner then. The kid Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, I think, he's okay. You have the kid right now from I'm sorry, Trey Amos from Ole Miss. Everyone is talking about Azari Thomas from Florida State. He's moving up by the day. So I'm not crying if I don't get Will Thomas or Jade Byron. I trust Weaver just based on him ranking 4th in the NFL and in defense. I trust Weaver.
Yeah, the thing is, you have to remember last year he had Fuller for half the year. He had Ramsay. He's not going to have Ramsay. He's not going to have Fuller. He had Campbell. He'll get Chubb back this year, but there is a difference in corner talent, and it's not that you can't find guys later in the rounds. You can, but it's just the odds get a little bit more difficult, and we haven't had really high hits. I think that if you're talking about running zero, then Johnson's probably one of the best guys, barring the injuries. And if you're really running that cover 3 like we ran this year, then Barron is just a guy you could put all over the place. You don't need these great boundary corners. So for me, if you gave me, say, Shalik Williams and Jedi Barron, that would be a great first 2 rounds. And you're not going to get everything. I mean, yeah, Campbell, if he falls, but he's got a major shoulder injury, and that's dropping him, isn't it? I think they're talking about him like falling to like the back of the first. But if he's healthy, it'd be great. But we got so many linebackers. I just think that when you look at Grier, and Sarah, just send me the email now. Email me, and then I'll send you the link, and then you just pop in. So just send that email, and I'll pop you in. But we're so barren at D tackle was so barren at corner. I mean, yeah, Storm Duck might be okay, and he might turn to be good. He definitely showed some stuff, but he also was beat. And if you're talking about you got Kohu and a bunch of guys that you're hoping to pan out, and then really no safety group, you're going to have to make sure you get some things solidified. So I mean, we struggle. We had Cam Smith, and like you said Cam Smith, and you said Ignominy. It's not easy thing. We drafted Tankersley in the 3rd round a couple of years ago, and he was a bomb. But Johnson and Barron are certain, and I think Shalik Williams is at least something very solid. So I don't know. I think we need to have some certainty. If Grier might do that,
And
what you're saying, he might get too cutesy.
the thing is, right, Curtis?
Yeah, brother.
The thing is, beautiful thing if people take who we want, because somebody else will be there. I'm telling you, it's a chance that Graham, Abdul Carter, Shamar Stewart, it's Tyleek Williams from Ohio State, I think, who you meant, the defensive tackle.
Yeah. I was thinking, Tyleek. I keep calling Shalik. I did that.
It's a chance. They can take who they want, but there's a chance the other guy. Yeah. It's a chance the other guys are gonna fall if they. Let's go through this. Travis Hunter 1, Ashton Genty 2, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, Cam Ward, Calvin Banks, Shador Sanders, Will Campbell. That's 10 right there. And if you go
Banks
to Terrio McMillan, Membo, you still have a Golden, you still have Byron, you still have Shamar Stewart, you still have Warren, you still have Josh Simmons, who basically we've been dreaming about here. So let them take who they want to take. Somebody will fall to us. It really doesn't matter. We're in a sweet spot. I can tell you right now, I want them to take.
I agree, but if I went over it before when you weren't. I don't think Banks goes top. I don't think I think he falls to us. I think Banks will fall to us. I don't think some of these other guys. I think one of the corners might. I think it depends on Sanders if Saints take Sanders or not. If he falls out of that top 10 or 13, then you could see some of these guys get sucked up. It depends. It really depends. I think that you got a chance for maybe one of the 2 corners. I think maybe you get a chance for Gianti, but I don't think so. I think maybe Banks, definitely you got a chance for. Shamar Stewart, I think you got a chance for. I think, but we never know. I guess you never know. Anybody can, you never know.
And,
you can't reach.
Let's play this game real quick. I want to ask you guys this. What if Cam Ward or Shador is there at your pick and you just want to play GM? Hey, I'm dangling this fish out here. How much you want to give me for your starting quarterback? Because we got Tua. Now, I mean, this could be one of those situations. How do you guys feel about that?
Cam Ward's a Titan.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone first pick. Sanders
I
the
just
only
don't
one.
think Sanders. I just think somebody's going to want him. Somebody's going to want him.
Saints,
Boy, the amount of picks Chris Grier, the amount of picks Chris Grier will get for that. I'm sure if they let that Chris Grier get he would take someone in Tyre's draft just for Shador. I believe that.
Do they have Dion? Do the Saints have Dion's permission to draft his son? We don't know what teams have been told no. I guarantee you, there's some teams that are like, yeah, don't even think about it. Because they don't need the money. They just want to go to a spot where they can control. So just makes you wonder who's on that list for Shador and who's not,
Yeah.
Let me answer some of these questions quick because I'm falling behind them. Brother Bluto, man, I think it's the first time you're coming on. You had don't sleep on Xavier Watts. He's a playmaker. I don't know him well enough. I'm not going to say I know him well enough. All these players are from 10 to 30 are interchangeable. Yeah, that's why a trade back I think is the best. It's the best option for us. It's a nice starter draft, few elite guys. It all depends on what flavor you like. I agree. You had another one too about Simmons. Yeah, but the thing is though, Bluto, we got Paul. He can't play guard. So he's got to play. And then you locked Jackson up till next year with like $9 million guaranteed. You pushed money forward. So he's here this year and next year. And Jackson can't play guard either. And then you don't want Simmons playing guard, especially coming off the knee. So I don't think we're going pure tackle. And I think Simmons is a pure tackle. A lot of people are raving about him. Also, the injury thing for us Dolphins fans, man, it doesn't really work out well for us too often. And with Nolan's issues weren't he wasn't like getting in trouble off the field. He would have a bad attitude when things weren't working out, and he would quit practice sometimes. He would quit at games because he wanted to win. It was things. So I think for us, it's not the nightlife that would really be the problem. It's the fact that we'd have a dysfunctional thing, and you'd probably get what Ramsay and Hill kind of were doing where they quit. That's kind of like the thing. Fins Fan 70s. Starks is not a bad pick either. What do you think, Cody? What do you think about Starks?
I don't know anything about him. I know his name's Malachi.
Yeah, no, he's a good pick. I don't know about
safety from Georgia.
Yeah, I don't know about 13 though. I mean, depends. Like if say Johnson.
Now that's another position, Kurt. That's another position, Curtis.
Yeah.
That is just as deep as the defensive tackles.
Yeah, just as deep. There's a guy in the third round.
The kid Xavier Watts is just like in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I like him. That's the thing, and I liked him before he got hyped this much.
He's the guy that
I'm looking at him right now.
Round? Is he the guy they're talking about in like the third round? Who could be as good as
Notre Dame? Zadie. Yeah. Yep. He's comparable to Hamilton in Baltimore, the safety.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this guy's his strengths, hits. He has size. He can be just like the kid in San Diego, the guy who always was hurt. He has the same type of abilities as him. The strong safety that plays with the Chargers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So the strong safety, and safety is very. Then you have Andrew Makuba. I'm telling you right now, we got a safety from from Texas a couple of years ago. His name is Brandon Jones. All Texas does is teach safeties how to play the game. This kid, Andrew Makuba, you ain't losing if you get him in the third or fourth round. So you don't cry if you miss out on a defensive tackle at 13, and you don't cry if you miss out on a safety at 13. They're all over the place.
Yeah, but there's also different likelihood that they'll pan out. That's why they're higher. You can find a guy later on, but the chances are usually better in those early rounds of those. That's why they got the draft board. So I do believe what you're saying, but every year, there's guys we say, oh, they're going to suck, and they turn out to be good. And then every year there's guys, they're going to be great, and then they're going nowhere. You never know. It's like such a crapshoot. And it's just like when you grab guys at certain rounds, you kind of hedge those bets a little bit easier. It's a little bit better odds, So I think you're right. I mean, you see teams do it all the time.
Xavier Watts.
Yeah.
And Kevin Winston Jr. Sorry, that was the other guy from Penn State. Him? Whoo-hoo.
Yeah, a lot of people talk. I think that Dolphins realtor was talking about him too.
And so you have 5 safeties above these guys. We're not crying if we don't get the safety at 13 or 46.
No, but
5 other guys is above these other talented guys.
Yeah. But the thing is, so if you don't grab a DB in the first round, let's say, then you got to start finding him in the second, and then you don't go to 98, and then you go. I forgot what it is in the fourth round. It's somewhere in the mid rounds, and so that you're gonna. It's like dominoes. You kind of want to be ahead of it a little bit. And I don't know what that is. It could be taking, whoever. I don't know. I'm not saying there's a particular thing, but as these dominoes fall, and so if you don't grab, say, a cornerback with that first round, then the rest of the teams know what you need. And now they're going to try to move ahead of you, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. So, but if you take one cornerback off the table, then you're not as pigeonholed in, and then your enemies are trying to trade up around you, and you're not so well known. But again, if you have a great staff and you make some great picks, you can find guy in the second round, you can find the safety in the third round. But it does get a little bit more difficult, and it's all really a crapshoot. You could go grab Johnson at 13. The guy could have a bad turf toe, and he could suck for you too. So there's no guarantees on anything, So I agree. It's very difficult, especially when you got Grier, to have that kind of trust, because
Curtis. No, I was just saying, as far as the corners, I think there's 4 top corners that the Dolphin community would agree. You got the Hairston kid, you got Azari Thomas, right, and then you got the top 2. You got Byron and Will Johnson, but nobody's saying anything bad about Maxwell Hairston. He is a stud. So just saying, like, after that, if you don't get any of those guys, you might as well start looking at your safeties and your defensive tackle, your big guys, because there's nothing else after those 4 guys.
Well, I think it's going to have to be cornerback first or second round. I think it's going to have to be D tackle, cornerback, either first, second, first. It's going to have to be those 2 positions, I think, unless something falls very well or bad for you in some ways. Do you think anyone's actually gotten? Yeah, someone's going to trade for Ramsay. You got to remember, Sarah, too. It's like, how much money are we going to take on? And that plays a big part into like the pick you get. I definitely think you could easily get a 4th round pick, because that's next year's pick, and it has to be June 1st, post June 1st, and it could be conditional. The guy's all pro, you get a 2nd round pick or a 3rd round pick. But then we'd have to take on the money. So I definitely think someone will trade for him 100%. Whether you get a 5th round pick and you don't take any of the money, I mean, it depends. It all depends. There's that finessing back and forth. Hill's, no one's taking Hill, but I definitely think someone will take Ramsay. What do you guys think? Think anyone's going to take Ramsay?
I do. I think he's a good player, and he's got a lot left in the tank. So, and it all depends on the
Hill.
Money. We were saving money. We're like, oh, are we going to make Campbell a deal? What are we going to do? We're saving money. No, we're saving money so we can pay for guys we're going to get rid of. That's what we're doing. That's our plan.
Yeah, what a schmuck. Abel, you want to read this one and answer this one? This is more in your line.
B Stuck the Poet said, "Are we excited to see what a desperate Grier does? Every year you guys do this great breakdowns of what our team needs, only to have Grier select Rudy Poo McGrew, a development to a little backer sucks off." Yeah, I mean, something from, because I saw that comment, and then just to kind of go back to is that, with getting rid of Ramsay, it just sucks because when we got him for Hunter Long in the 3rd round pick, for us it was like, oh, Grier, he fleeced the Rams, so we fleeced them, and now it's like, man, we're probably going to get less for him to be traded away. And it's just a thing where, we're talking about, hey, well, at 13, don't cry we miss out on the quarterbacks. Yeah, I mean, that there's great players and stuff like that, but it's just, we don't know what the players are going to be, and it's kind of like when we play fantasy football where, you want to try to get ahead of stuff. Where if you get your running back first, just to really break it down in simple terms, when, you get like your wide, you get your running back, you get your wide receivers when you're doing fantasy football. And as a football team, we can check that box where, hey, we had Ramsey. Let's check off the cornerback box. We got that. We had Van Ginkel. Okay, check that box off. Check that box off of being a linebacker, edge rusher.
You hurt me over here, Abel.
Hey, we got we have Wilkins and Sealer. Check that. We have our D tackles down, but we got
Campbell.
Yeah, it's just, oh man, as we've lost, it's like, okay, now the boat's spilling water everywhere. We have holes here, we have holes there, we have holes, everywhere, and it's just like a lot of people in the comments are talking about Warren, and I'm not against Warren. I know he's a great player, but I just feel like for us at this time, that would be like a real luxury pick, I think, just because we still have Jonnu. We got the tight end from
Farrah Brown.
Right, which, I mean, that's going to bulk up, our line. But, I mean, I feel like he would be like a luxury pick just because I think there's more bigger pressing needs, like how we're saying with cornerback and defensive tackle. And
Hayden Rucci. Don't forget about Hayden Rucci, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's there. He's looked like a quality player till he got injured, and that's a guy I think that you can. Tight ends develop a little bit slow. They're one of the slower position groups, 2 to 3 years, sometimes even like 4. Strange, who was drafted a couple years ago, I liked him. He's finally starting to shine, so it takes some time. Sanders getting slandered, ranks top 5. No, I don't think he gets past the Saints. Carr wants out, it appears, and he's got injuries. I don't think he gets past. I don't think the Giants are taking him though, because I don't see that because they've got to win now. Or
they got
Dable's
Wilson
gone.
and Winston. I think they're gonna run.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, what's going on? 10 picks, 511. Maybe for his. Yeah. Well, it doesn't. The problem, and I meant to cover it, but I don't know if I did really. There's a problem. So everybody wants O-line, especially me. But the problem is you've got a philosophy that's outside zone heavy. You've got talent that's designed for outside zone heavy. And outside zone heavy, nobody runs it like us. And most teams, they're balanced. They're not. There's only a couple teams a year that like run heavy outside zone. And nothing like what we do here. And so if you go draft an offensive lineman for this scheme, you got to get a guy who's nimble. And when you get a guy who's nimble, then they usually have weaknesses on the power. Because if they were really nimble and really powerful, they're a top 5 pick, top 10 pick. And so if we're going out to fill this scheme out and this scheme doesn't work with this staff and you get a new staff in here, these guys are not going to fit. Like if McDaniel gets fired, Brewer's gone. Like he's gone. Jackson gone. Daniels gone. Daniels sucked at Chicago, and he struggled a ton with the Steelers, except for the first 4 games of last year. Maybe he finally clicked, but now he's at the Achilles. The only guy who's going to really be here for the long term in any system would be Paul. And so if you go and get 2 or 3 offensive linemen, let's say this year, it's all going to be designed for outside zone. And then when this thing craps out, you're going to have to go get new guys anyway. So part of me is like, you know what? Let's just ride this thing with their heavy outside zone, fill the defense up with players that can translate to any kind of defense. Let's see if McDaniel can sink or swim. And if he sinks, fire him, get rid of Grier, get a new staff in here. And then they're going to get rid of Jackson. They're going to get rid of Brewer. They're going to get rid of Daniels. And then they're going to keep Paul if he sticks. And then they'll rebuild the right because you're not going to get inside zone guys with this style here. I mean, you there's a way to do it. You could go get yourself a left guard that's more in the inside zone style, and you could have one power side. I've talked about that with Farrell Brown flanking, and the other side's the nimble side. You could do that, but I don't see them doing that. I see them, just filling. I think they're going to double down. And so I think the D-line and the defense is you can translate that to anything. I'm just very concerned about who they're going to go get at offensive line because you need nimble guys. And it's very hard finding nimble guys that, are also can handle power. Zach Tom, they're very rare to come by in those mid rounds. So, if we can get those guys, I would definitely take them. So I agree in essence, but not in practicality because we're going to do a heavy outside. I don't see us. We don't have the talent to run inside zone. These guys are not moving people. They're not digging them out. Jackson, Daniels, and Brewer, they're not doing it. Only one who could do it right now is Paul. So, so I agree, but sort of not. Anything else, guys? You guys want to talk, man? Keep saying some stuff here.
I just hope that Grier's got guys like Will Hernandez on speed dial saying, hey, man, we're going to talk to you after the draft. There's probably a good chance we're going to bring you in. Look at some other offers, whatever you got to do. But that would change the way you would draft if you knew you had a couple of those guys, like back hip pocket. So I think we'd be better with a Will Hernandez than we probably would with a 2nd round, 3rd round guard. Like maybe develop them, but I just think putting in somebody like Will Hernandez would get us through the year while we're developing a guy that we drafted in the 3rd round, you know?
Yeah, that's what I think, that it's even going to be 4th round. I think from what, like we heard that Eichenberg's not going to get a free ride to start. He's going to have to be at his best, and he's going to have to compete. But they're not telling you what he's got to compete with. They talk about this competing and all this every year. They paid $2.2 million for him, and I think it's going to be a 4th round pick. It's going to be tough for him, but it wouldn't be for a normal vet. But I'd be, if they go grab a real guard in the 2nd round or the 3rd round, I'd be shocked. I'd actually tip my hat to Grier, but I don't know if that's happening. I think it's safety. I think it's defense. I think it's safety. And if they're actually not sure about McDaniel and Grier, I think that just loading up on defense with your prime picks, because like I said, you can put those guys in any system practically. I think it's going to be cornerback, D-tackle, and safety. But I could be wrong. I hope I am. Let's see. Also, the French positions, high snap counts, and generally more affects the snap from play-to-play basis. I don't understand that. Stretch. Oh, stretch. Yeah, the French. I'm like, the French? I'm like, that's great, the French. Yeah, high snap count, generally more affects. Yeah, but the whole thing with the problem with the stretch is that, so when you run inside zone, it's about immediate movement of players. That's why you see a lot of double teams on the inside zone. With the stretch, what you're doing is you're trying to stretch it, and it's a long time behind line of scrimmage. And if you don't get the blocks and the cutback, then all you do is run to the outside. And so it's notoriously hit or miss. It's kind of like a slugger, and it depends on the slugging percentage, where inside zone has a tendency to be more like, the single, the double. It's more consistent and more physical. And so the stretch, we were very lucky to have an Achane and a Mostert who were just able to outrun bad blocks to the corner. But we couldn't get those cutbacks. We very rarely got the cutbacks. And so just outside zone in general, unless you have a very good offensive line, and it has to be the center. Center's got to be able to get some movement, as not just ride, but move the guy. And Brew really doesn't do that. None of our guys really do that. And so there's really not – if you go back to Atlanta when they had Mack and they ran to the Super Bowl, they had heavy outs on this one – and then the 49ers did too, and they had Mack there. But they also had the inside zone. But the last really, really great outside zone team was Atlanta back in, 2012 or something. They had a phenomenal line. And then they had a quarterback who they could put the pressure with the Julio Jones and everything. And so it's just it's a fickle system. And then if you're talking about you're playing in wet and mud and snow, now you got to, you're dragging that thing out for a while, and the running back can't really cut too well. It's just you don't want to be behind the line of scrimmage. When I went to college, that's what they called me. They called me OJ when I first got there because I thought I was in high school. And I was like doing all this stuff, trying to bounce it outside. They're like, OJ, hit the hole. And that's because the longer you're behind that line of scrimmage, in the higher the level of the game gets, it happens so quick. And so it's just very hard to run in bad weather and outside zone. And then people will say, oh, what about the Broncos back in the day? But people don't understand that when the Broncos had their big run, with Elway and what's his face, Davis, they had doubles, and one guy would cut the guy. They put rules into the game because guys' Achilles were getting blown out. And every time they would go to try to run stop, they were always going like this, ready to get cut from the side. That's why every time you watch Davis run and you see the cutback and everyone's on the ground because everyone's trying to guard their ACL. And that was where some of these rules came into the cut. That one guy would hold, the other guy would cut, and everybody would be on the ground. But since that time, the outside zone hasn't really been as prolific. Because it was about those blocking schemes. Yeah, good blockers, great backs, but they were just blowing people's legs out. And they were constantly, those D linemen were constantly tentative, head on a swivel. And so it's not the same. And if you go and we run the heaviest outside zone of anyone. And it's very fickle. Inside zone with some outs, like the way this 49ers kind of do it. They're balanced. So I was talking too long. Let's see.
No,
What else?
that's what it's all about. Yeah, we got a couple of more comments. I see
trying
you're
to-
reading them.
Yeah, I fell
Go ahead.
behind. I fell behind, guys. I'm going to start from the bottom. Grier must
Thanks
be
for
attacked.
everybody coming out and everybody in the chat. Appreciate all the
Yeah.
questions.
This is
man.
great,
Thank
man.
you.
I love all these comments. Thank
Yeah.
you. They're great. I love the comments, but I talk too much. Get into it. I focus. Grier must be a cat. Yeah, he's got about 1,000 lives. Red Skelton, man. Oh, I used to love watching your show, man. Thanks for coming back from the dead to be on here, man. Red Skelton was great back in the day. That was 70s stuff, man. Grier should have been ahead of this and held off the second. Yeah, well, he's behind on everything. Name one thing he's not behind on. Yeah, he's the worst. Oh yeah, happy, man. Hit the like button, guys. I appreciate everything. Keep me rolling. The likes, subscribes, and stuff. I appreciate it. I love to do this. So I appreciate all that. I love the comments. A spreads. I'm right. I like that. This is the best comment of the night. I'm right. Nobody is taking Ramsay unless he eats a big. Yeah, we gotta have to eat a slice. And I'm right. Once in a while, I get that.
You're right.
Richard, man, what's going on? Grier's been allowed to slide for too long. Anybody with eyes? Yeah, he's a salesman. He's a salesman. Elwood, preach, brothers. Yeah, man, we're preaching. We just won't want to win. It just sucks.
The media's on Grier now. Like everybody,
Yeah.
it's now open season to look at every draft pick of Grier's.
Hallelujah.
Yep. Everybody's looking at it right
Hallelujah.
now. Grier couldn't even list off. He's trying to list off his best draft picks, and it is sad to watch, man. I felt
it's
really
pathetic.
bad for the guy.
Yeah.
I really did.
It looks like he's mentally breaking down. I've never seen a press conference like two of them, not one, but like two of them back to back. I think he's like, there's a schism going on. He's starting to like really get frazzled. I feel bad for him, actually.
I
So-
got a question for you guys because I asked Dirk this and going back to Red Skeleton's comment because that's a good one. Because I tried to go back and kind of see, but I didn't find anything on YouTube. But does Grier usually do this where he like talks to the media like a week or 2 weeks before the draft, or no? Like he's never done this before, or he has? If you guys can remember.
I don't think so. I think
Yes,
this was,
he's scheduled for. Yeah, he's always him and McDaniel. They always schedule for before the draft, and then he has to come to the table after the draft. That's an obligation. Now, there's a couple that back in the day he would come for more, but he's not obligated by NFL to do so, so he doesn't. And so he would come to the three that he has to, meaning the one that was just him and McDaniel, and then him by himself. And then now he's going to come by himself after the draft, I guess, him and McDaniel to make it look like their picks were in unison. So, yeah, Grier has to come back out one more time. And
Yeah,
we've got to tell Omar Kelly and Poop and Joe Shad to ask the questions. As Dolphins, we have to. And they're listening to us, the writers are, and the writers are asking the questions that they did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And so we have to, they're now a part of the community. They hear our hurt. And so I know Grier's laughing, saying, oh, these guys on the podcast now are taking over. Of course, because we're paying the tickets to see the games. We have to take over in a laughing way. But, that it is what it is.
Blood's in the water, man. And
I mean, yeah.
It took those media guys this long to be like, okay, it's now safe. It's now
Yeah.
safe to start jumping in on asking these tough questions, because there wasn't a lot of tough questions going on the last few years at all. I mean, they'd ask him, but he never got it. And there was a lot of fans saying, dude, you asked him this. Why didn't you grill him? Why didn't you press him on this pick or whatever? And they're finally doing it. So they must think he's on the way out too.
Yeah, I think what Abel was saying though, Sharif, is that it was early. Usually that pre-draft conference happens the week of, that I remember. But this was like almost a week and a half out. So that was a little odd. I think it was really mostly done because of Ramsay's camp leaking some stuff, or them leaking some stuff, or whatever. It was a little early. I thought it was a little early,
I was just asking the question because when I had asked Dirk, because that day when it came out, like it did kind of, it was, almost 2 weeks before the draft, but it just felt very strange where, going back to the question where they ask, okay, well, who's leaders on the team? Then, he says Sealer, but then right after that, he says Hill. So it's like, okay, why would you say Hill if you don't know, like, if you don't know your team? Like, you're the GM, like, you should know it, but it's like,
he was gone, dude. He was like,
were you so scared in this moment that, why wouldn't he be better prepared to, like, say, like, the right answer? Because, I mean, he always has a perfect answer for everything. But like, this was the one time where it was like, oh, wow, like, he's really, really, like maybe
I think he's shook. I think he's stressed out. I think he's overloaded. I think he just didn't look himself. Like, usually he's got that, like, cockiness, like, I'm smarter than everybody. But he was kind of like
the thing is, right?
like a hunted deer.
I hate to say this, guys. And we broke this down to the T on the other show. If you look, 2 years in a row, number one franchise. We have the number one facility in all of America and Europe. The training facility. We have the gross net that Stephen Ross has accumulated in his last 3 years since the F1 racing, and now the new high rise in Miami that he's establishing. He has quadrupled. He's basically put his dollar in and got it back $4. So losing games, Chris Grier's bad picks, Brandon Shore's bad capology, that's not hurting Stephen Ross's end meat, which is he got his investment back 4 times. So when we lose games or not make the first round playoffs, or Grier fails at this, or Igbanagami, guess who's not going to be fired? I'm not firing anyone if I made $4 back on my dollar. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
I'm just putting that in perspective for you guys that want somebody's head. You're not going to want someone's head and they're making you $4 back due to F1 racing, the high rise in Miami, ticket sales since Tyreek. I'm not firing anyone. So guys, you just got to let that one be. Grier's here he's here for the 7-year plan. He's here to stay. This is their team.
I don't know if Grier made him.
It is what it is.
I think Grier's the one losing the money for him, man. I think everyone else with all their other things they're doing with the stadium is making the money. Just owning the Dolphins is making the money. Yeah, maybe Grier's could bid some splash.
Exactly.
Brought in some guys, but Ross wants splash. So, yeah, maybe you're right, man. I don't really know. I hope not. I know he'll spend money, and I don't think he just spends it to make it. I think there's other ways he could have spent money and saved money and still made money.
Think of it like this.
I think he wants to win.
If I can extend you, if I can extend Ramsay, if I can extend Tua, first of all, I made $4 back on my dollar. Is there a reason? I can extend everyone? Every year I'm making a surplus on my F1 racing, my high rise, and my team. I'm going to extend Tyreek and Ramsay, even though I have 2 years. He's making enough money, guys. It's not going to hurt him, not his bottom line.
That's the worst. That's the worst news of all, though.
That's the worst part. That's the worst part right there, Curtis.
Then you're never going to have a winner. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And you just basically have a show. You have smoke and mirrors. And look, the way a lot of these people cover the Dolphins, like you said before, it's like, oh, yeah, they're the best, they're the best, the best, the best, the best in the very last minute when it's like totally obvious. Oh, we got to get rid of them. And so I don't know. I think you're right. I for a little while, I did believe, because I talked to Alf and he said he thought Grier was on a hot seat, and I kind of believed in it. But then, I don't know.
But then I'm extending everybody. I'm extending the clown, Santa Claus. I'm extending everyone. Nobody's going anywhere.
Grier's on the way out. We can all feel it. There's too much smoke, right? This is a collective amount of energy everybody's putting into this thing to get Grier out. It's going to happen, and we just hope sooner or later. And we're going to have a great draft. This is it for us, guys. We're going to see a different draft pattern. We're going to question, that's probably not Grier, and we're going to feel really good about things, guys. It takes 10 picks for us to start feeling really good about things again. So, fingers crossed.
We got to hope. Yeah, Dave.
You think
Hyde,
they yanked this?
Dave Hyde's
you think they yanked that? You think they yanked that responsibility out of his hands, guys? They were like, you know what? You're not gonna be doing this anymore. We're gonna give this to Alan and
Hope so.
Chris. You're gonna sit down in the war room and get us a glass of orange juice when we need some.
He might
We're gonna
be,
watch that
he
war
might be a
room.
figurehead. He might be a figurehead now. That's what I'm hoping.
All these comments that are
Oh my gosh.
I'm praying for that. I'm praying that because listen, honestly, even still with the money, the way he was so shook, at a certain point, it becomes so deleterious to the whole process. He's a big negative influence right now. Those two pressers were two of the most disastrous pressers I've ever seen in my life. And so they could just prop this guy up and say he's doing this and that. And in reality, he's just
And Marvin Allen is out there scouting his butt off. Yeah, I get you. I get what you're saying.
I hope.
Yeah,
I hope. Dave Hyde's great. I love Dave Hyde. I love he said Chris Grier is the Liam Eichenberg of GMs. That was brilliant, dude. That was beautiful.
Oh, he's always on the ground.
Yeah. Oh. So anyway, guys, I appreciate everything. Some great comments. I didn't get to all of them. So if I talk too much, I get passionate. I forget about things. I start venting. So we got the draft coming up. We got to just hope whatever. You laugh, but Alpha Taker is the one who mentioned that promoting Grier and moving Allen into that position is not far-fetched. Yeah, he did. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We just got to hope whatever it is, it works out right. Hopefully Grier takes the limitless pill and he becomes a genius and gets himself together and drafts if he's in charge.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever the case may be. Maybe Marvin Allen takes over and he's got a figurehead. I don't care. I'm just getting tired. It's so tiring. I feel like I've aged dog years, like covering and then being a fan, and I just want the fandom and myself to just have a blast. So whatever it is, let's hope we have a good draft, guys. I'm going to do my Thursday night live. I'm going to do live coverage from the draft. I'm just going to watch the draft in here. If you want to come and stop in, we can chat as the draft goes on. Because I normally do the Thursday night. It's the Monday night. It's the first round. So just come check it out then if you want. Also, guys, with Dirk, I did a interview with him. It was a really good interview. He did a great job. His channel looks phenomenal. So Frozen Fin fan, check him out. He does a great job. He's a great guy too. Just check his channel out in general, if it's not just for my little thing. So, guys, I appreciate all the conversation with you, Sharif, Cody, and Abel. And in spirit, Dirk and Jason. Jason should be around a little, and Joe and a bunch of other guys. So everyone have a great draft coming up, and let's just hope it pans out well. And I appreciate everything you guys do. I always have a blast here. So everybody, from all of us to you, have a very good night and enjoy the upcoming draft. Curtis and Co. saying, "Go Fins."
Fins up.